Hello everyone and welcome back to JJD TV. I'm your host Josh. Now the World Cup is fast approaching and with it Canada's date with Belgium. So what we are going to do on the channel is do a player by player comparison, and we are going to do it with all three of our oppositions at the upcoming World Cup. We play Belgium first, so that is what this episode will be on, the player by player comparison for Canadian starting 11 versus Belgium. The next episode on this will come out for Croatia and then finally Morocco. So I'm going to, for each different country we play, try to match them up in a similar formation. That way we can do a direct player by player comparison of the starting 11. So without further ado, let's get into our very first one. Player by player comparison, Canadian men's national team versus Belgium. Alright everyone, so at the time of recording, Canada is ranked 43rd in the world and Belgium is ranked 2nd in the world for the men's FIFA rankings. So when doing this player comparison, you're probably going to assume that Belgium is going to win by a landslide, and I haven't started yet, but I'm assuming you're also right. So to make things very easy, I tried to line up the two starting 11s in a similar system, so I went with the 3-4-2-1 system, and I think that it's a fair one to go with. So to kick things off, we're going to start with the keepers, and we're going to start with Belgium. Now, there's not much to say about this player. Their starting keeper is Thibaut Courtois, one of the best, if not the best keeper in the world. Just came off an insane season with Real Madrid where he won La Liga and of course the Champions League and was such a crucial player in that. There's not much more I can praise about him. I truly think he's one of the best in the game. And he comes up against Milan Borjan. Milan Borjan is a fantastic keeper in his own right. He's got a very good career as well, Canada's leader, captain, but I mean, he's going to have to stand on his head, Mr. Sweatpants, if we're going to have to do something here against Belgium. When you compare the two, it's not overly fair to do so just given what Thibaut Courtois has accomplished in his life, but they are both strong keepers, but you know, it is what it is. I can talk about Borjan all you want, but you know this point is going to be going to Thibaut Courtois. But regardless, when Borjan can get in the mood, you know how deadly he can be. We saw that matchup against the US where he was just lights out. He's a very talented keeper, one of the best in my opinion in CONCACAF, but when it comes to the best in the world, we got to give that one to Thibaut Courtois. The next position we will take a look at is right wing back, and again we will start with Belgium and with Timothy Castagne. I debated between him and Thomas Meunier, but I just rate Castagne more. He's a very talented player playing with Leicester, even though they are struggling quite a bit to start off this Premier League season, but there's no denying his capabilities of getting up the pitch. He's got a good final ball as well, and he will be very deadly in this system because the wing backs under Roberto Martinez have a lot of freedom to kind of do what they do, and that is really attacking the final third. When you match him up against Canada's right wing back, I went with Richie Larea. He had a very short spell in Europe with Nottingham Forest, wasn't one to really praise about, but he did find promotion and then was immediately loaned back to TFC where he's enjoying himself once again. They are very talented wing backs, both of them, but again, when it comes to playing at a level, one is playing in the best league in the world, at the most, going up against talent that is just simply uncomparable. This is what it is, like playing in the Premier League. It would have been nice to see if Richie Larea could have cut it there with Nottingham, but regardless, I mean, he's performing. There's no denying that, but when you have to compare the two, you have to give the advantage to Castagne just given what he's accomplished and the level that he's playing at. He's played in a couple top leagues in the world already, so again, this one's I think this one's a little bit closer to just how amazing Thibaut Courtois was, but I have to give it to Castagne. Both will definitely be looking to get in the final third. Both are very good delivering. They'll be playing a similar type of style, and it's going to be intriguing to see them line up against one another, but on opposite flanks. The next position we are going to take a look at is the outside right center back, and for Belgium, I put Leander Den Donker. Very talented, very versatile player as well, who can play in the midfield, in the heart of the back three, outside of the back three, can play in a back four. He had a very successful spell with the Wolves before moving on over to Aston Villa right now. And they've struggled a little bit at the beginning of the season, but he hasn't featured yet at time of recording. But he's a talented player, and he's fought his way into this Belgium side with an aging back line. And he's going up against Alistair Johnston. And when I say irreplaceable players, Alistair Johnston has proven that. He is flying right now with CF Montreal. He replicates that form of the Canadian men's national team. There's nothing this man can't do. From right wing back, outside right center back. There's a lot to like about it, and this one's really close. But again, when you look at the quality of the leagues they're playing, one's playing in the Premier League, proven Premier League player, versatile. The other one is in the MLS, and it's just difficult to try to give it. Now, being biased, I mean, I would go with Alistair Johnston because I think he's so much more important to this Canadian men's national team than Docker is to Belgium. But in terms of quality, where you're playing at, Docker goes up against the best of the best pretty much week in, week out at at the Premier League. I mean, there's just no getting around that, so you've got to probably give him the edge. This one is the closest of the 3 we've done so far, because I do think in terms of quality, you put Alistair Johnson in the position that Dendonker's playing in, I think that he could do that job basically as good. But again, we're trying to be fair about it, and Alistair Johnson isn't proven at that level, which is why we got to go with Dendonker on this one. The next position is the central center back, one of the most important positions in this system. We're going to start with Canada this time. We are going to take a look at Steven Vittoria. Now, this player is obviously unbelievably important to this setup. The central center back is a key player. Vittoria plays it very well. He's playing in a back four right now with Chavez in the Portuguese top flight. He's having an insane season right now. He's a set piece specialist. Very important aerial presence. And he's matching up with the central center back for Belgium, Toby Alderweireld, who went over to Qatar. He's now moved back to his home, basically, with Antwerp, and they are absolutely lighting up the Belgian league right now. At the time of recording, I believe they're 7-0-0. This is a close one as well. I mean, Alderweireld moved on from Tottenham to Qatar, then he went back to the Belgian league, which, I mean, if you're comparing it at who's playing at a higher level, you could argue that Steven Vittoria is playing at a higher level. I think Alderweireld is still a very important player for this Belgian team. He can play on the outside, right, left, through the middle as well. Very good player. This is very close, I think, to compare the two, because what I've been doing so far is kind of going at the level that they're playing at and just the style of the player. And I think the case can be made that playing at a higher level is Steven Vittoria. More important to this side is Steven Vittoria. So I think just to make this a little bit more interesting, I'm not saying that Steven Vittoria is a better player, but at the stages in their career, I'm going to go with Steven Vittoria. He's on excellent form right now. I want to make it fair, make it a little interesting, because, you know, Belgium is going to win this race. There's no denying that, but I think you can make an argument that playing at the level that they're going at after a little dip in Qatar, I mean, Alderweireld went there for the money. I mean, maybe his head's not... regardless, I'm going to go with Steven Vittoria because I know what he brings, and he's in excellent form right now, taking a Chavez side that should be maybe battling relegation up into the top half of the table. When it comes to set pieces, I mean, he's almost unmarkable. I think it's relatively fair, but I mean, Belgium supporters, let me know in the chat if I did you wrong. The next position we are taking a look at is the outside left center back, and we are starting with Belgium again, and we are looking at Jan Vertonghen. Now, again, similar to Alderweireld, these two know each other very well. From Ajax to Tottenham, he went over to Portugal, worked out decently, I think, with Benfica, but now he's returned home, similar to Alderweireld, but he went to Anderlecht. He is in the later stages of his career. This is the big issue around the Belgian national team, is the aging back line, and I mean, he's still Jan Vertonghen. He's a very talented player. He's a strong presence. I think the speed playing that outside left center back could be a little bit worrying. And if I'm looking at Alphonso Davies running at the right, I mean, that's where you want to put the more pacey player. But I'd be very tempted to maybe put Davies on the right-hand side just to try to get that pace, or even Buchanan coming in there, because there will be an opportunity to really burn Jan Vertonghen. And he's going up against the outside left center back with Canada, and that is Kamal Miller, a player kind of similar to Alistair Johnson, who's taken a major step in his career, lighting it up at CF Montreal, very talented team in the MLS. He's doing it at the international level with Canada. I think this was a similar one as well to the other ones. I think this back line is pretty comparable. But again, I mean, if you want to say the Belgium League, the MLS, you want to rate him like that, I'm going to go with Jan Vertonghen given the experience as well. But I truly believe that he is the most vulnerable position for Belgium, and Canada's speedy wingers can't take advantage of him. So maybe it's a little bit unfair, but if we're just simply looking at the player, Jan Vertonghen has had a stellar career. He's still going to be an important piece. Kamal Miller has something to prove and maybe earn a move to Europe from this World Cup. It's close, but I'm going to give it to Vertonghen. The next position is left wing back, and this one's a fun one, and it's a close one, but I think I already know where it's going. At left wing back for Canada is Alphonso Davies. What is there to say about this player that you don't already know? He's won everything there pretty much is to win in Germany right now. He is absolutely stellar. He's played at striker, he's playing at cam, he's playing on the wings, wing back. He can do it all for Canada. I put him in this wing back because that is where I think you're going to get him having some fun running up against Dendonker. There's no one really super quick in that back three, regardless of who is going to play there. If Davies is able to run at this back three, I'd like the odds going up there. And if you look at the other side, this is where Belgium play a different style, where they don't have an out-and-out true left wing back. I went with Carrasco, but they also had Thorgan Hazard play there, Trossard as well. Regardless of those three, I'm going to give it to Alphonso Davies because it doesn't really matter who it is. Davies is the more natural left wing back there. He's deadly on the attack. He's got great defensive attributes that his game that is continually growing. Plays for Bayern. I mean, I don't think there's a ton of debate, even though I do rate Carrasco in all three. Well, not really Thorgan Hazard anymore. I mean, I think he's probably a little bit better up the pitch as opposed to a left wing back. But Carrasco has proven he can do that role for Atletico. But when it comes down to it, I don't think this is much of a debate. We're giving this one to Davies. Next up is our central midfield position, and starting in Belgium, we have Yuri Tillemans against Atiba Hutchinson. Now, Hutch is 39 years old. I mean, we are going to get what we are going to get from him. I don't know how much he's going to play at this upcoming World Cup. He hasn't featured yet this year. He will definitely play a part, no doubt about it. You can debate whether you want to throw Marc-Anthony Kaye, Azorio, someone else in that midfield, but for the sake of this video, we've gone with Hutch. I love Hutch. He's the GOAT for Canadian soccer. There's no getting around that, but Yuri Tillemans is a fantastic player. He's struggling, similar to Castagna, with Leicester City. He wants a move. There's no denying that, but he's good enough to play it. I think one of the best, or a top 6 club in England. He's just a very talented player, very good on the ball, technically gifted. Can't really compare the two at the stage of Hutch's career, but we're going to give this one to Yuri Tillemans, but knowing that Atiba Hutchinson is going to be a very important player to Canada. The next position is the other central midfield position, and this one I think is a fair debate as well. I mean, with Canada, you have Stefan Eustáquio playing for FC Porto, finally breaking into the starting 11, getting a couple starts in a row, and is looking incredible. And Axel Witsel, I mean, he had a very poor end to his Dortmund career after being such an important player coming over from China. He's moved to Atletico Madrid. He plays now as a central center back, and maybe that's something that Roberto Martinez can capitalize on and maybe push him a little bit down. I think this one's a fair debate. I mean, I'm a huge fan of Axel Witsel. I've absolutely adored his career. I didn't like when he went to China, but he made up for it coming back and just doing wonderful things with Borussia Dortmund. But at his age, I don't know if he's able to be the same Axel Witsel in this midfield. And knowing how he moves on and off the ball with a slow back line, I think he can be very vulnerable once again. He might even be better to fit in that back line and would have to sacrifice someone because the speed is simply not there. Eustáquio, again, one of the most important players to this midfield, especially with Hutch's age. Playing for Porto, proving he can play the championship level. He just played against Atletico Madrid at the time of recording. He looked very good in it. It's interesting, but I'm going to go, again, for the sake of the video, make it a little bit more interesting, because in all honesty, you could probably make a good argument that this could be 10-1 for Belgium. But I think looking at these two positions, Eustáquio is so important for Canada. He's playing at such a competitive level as well. He's actually playing as a midfielder in a 4-4-2 system where Witsel has kind of dropped out. He's not really good enough to play in that midfield position anymore for Dortmund. He can't really do it for Atletico. Definitely a role to play, but I think that's an opportunity where Belgium will be a little vulnerable. So I'm going to give this one to Eustáquio in Canada. Now for the two attacking midfielder positions, they're both a certain style of player. Whether you want to picture this formation as a 3-4-3 or 3-4-2-1, it doesn't really matter, because it's Eden Hazard either playing out as a wing or as a attacking mid. We know what Eden Hazard is now. He's not the same Eden Hazard. And I'm going to match him up against Jonathan David. Now, Jonathan David, this season, he's kind of played in the system a little bit, a 3-4-2-1, where he's dropped in as that dual 10. He can also play out on the wing, so if you want to kind of compare them, I think this one is interesting, because I just don't see the same Eden Hazard anymore. He's one of my favorite players to watch at Chelsea. He was a top, in my opinion, 3 player in the world, what he was able to do with Belgium, with Chelsea. And then his career since going to Madrid has fallen off a cliff. I wish that he could turn it around, but he can't. And I don't think you can really debate this one that much. I think it's, if you're going player by player, yes, different positions, but also you could make the argument Eden Hazard just came on for Benzema, kind of playing in that central role. He's almost looked at as the backup striker. I'm going with Jonathan David. This is a player in much better form than Eden Hazard is. This is a player who will play consistently. Not that Eden Hazard isn't important for the Belgian national team, but he's just not the same. He's simply not the same guy anymore. It's a shame, but it's simply the truth. So when it comes down to it, Jonathan David has got an incredible goal-scoring record for Lille as well as Canada. He can play now because of what Fonseca is doing in a few different positions that Herman might capitalize on to drop him a little bit deeper and play as that cam, which he's done in Belgium when he was with, again, put him out on the wings or put him up as a striker. It doesn't matter. He'll produce. Sorry, Hazard. I'm going with Jonathan David on this one. The next one up, it's a little bit unfair. I mean, you got De Bruyne, who can shift out wide, but he's best through the middle. We know that, up against Tejan Buchanan. Tejan, man, I love you. I love you, my guy, but yeah. Similar to Courtois, this is a world-class player, probably the best at what he can do. The #1 player on this Belgium side that absolutely terrifies me He will be the best player on the pitch, no doubt about it. So can't praise Kevin De Bruyne enough, but De Bruyne versus Buchanan, it's not really, it's not really a fair debate. But even if you switched them and did De Bruyne against David, I mean, it would be De Bruyne, but you could probably still argue that he's playing at a higher level. But I wanted to make it interesting, so I kind of did it in a way where it'd be a closer score, like I mentioned. But Kevin De Bruyne, I can't praise him enough. He's getting this one for sure. The final position is the lone strikers up front, and with Belgium, I went with Romelu Lukaku against Kyle Larin. This one is not really a debate. Kyle Larin is in terrible form right now. He is not playing whatsoever, completely lost his confidence, and he's going up against Romelu Lukaku, who had a brutal campaign with Chelsea, but he's returned to Inter where he wants to be. He's scoring goals again, and I mean, he's just playing at a much higher level, and he's producing at a much better rate. So that is basically it. Let's take a look at the final score. For our player-by-player comparison, the final score is 7 Belgium to 4 Canada. Was I a little generous? Probably. So don't get too angry in the comments. I wanted to make it interesting. This is the second best team in the world. It's Belgium. They are expected. You could do this probably and rearrange some of the players in it, like I mentioned. Besides probably Davies, it could be 10 to 1. I got that, but I wanted to make it interesting for you guys as well, and also kind of highlight where the vulnerabilities are in this Belgium side, which I'm not the only one pointing out. It is the back line and maybe a little bit the midfield, depending on what Witsel is going to do. Witsel's always performed very well for Belgium as well, so maybe I'm being a little bit unfair, but he can't deny he's not playing in his proper position this season for Atletico, and it doesn't look like he's going to get in that 3-man midfield at all this season. He is a central center back now. But I just did this video for fun. I want to know what you guys' thoughts and opinions are. Was I being too biased towards Canada, make it 7-4, but they're being a little bit unfair? Let me know down below. Let me know you guys' thoughts. If I even got the best 11s right to try to mix it up. But the next one coming out on this player-by-player comparison will be Croatia, and then followed by Morocco, of course, guys. So I hope you did enjoy this, and as always, be sure to drop a like, drop a sub, and we'll see you next time. Cheers, friends.